Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Spartan Nation Radio. We now bring in legendary state of Michigan high school football and basketball coach, the great coach Chuck Grenier, dear friend of ours. First of all, he's a dear friend personally. I love him and his beautiful wife, Becky, just two of my favorite people on planet Earth. But we also love him on the show for his contribution athletically and talking athletics with us. He joins us each and every week. We take 2 years off a year, the week of Christmas and New Year's. Other than that, he's 50 weeks strong with us, talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly with MSU athletics. The great coach Chuck Grenier. Coach, how are you, friend?
I'm doing great. How about you, Hondo?
Good. How was Snowmageddon up in the North Country? Was it nothing like here?
No. Actually, we had all kinds of predictions that it was going to be pretty bad, and it didn't. It was pretty light. We're going to get a little bit of snow today and tomorrow, but nothing real serious. But we do have snow on the ground. We got lots of snow, and we're going to have a nice cold streak here pretty soon.
Coach, I want to start with Michigan State athletics. I have already reported back in September that Mark Dantonio was told by Mark Hollis not to sign Austin Robertson. He went through a process to basically get Mark Hollis overruled. Did you read the article in the Detroit News by Tony Paul?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so you can tell the people, I told you that he was told not to sign Austin Robertson long before I publicly reported it in September. Is that true or not true?
That is correct.
So I didn't report it for a long time. Now it's out there with the Detroit News. You read the article. What is your thought on the state of the Michigan State football program? Now, earlier this week, Mark Dantonio got a $4.3 million bonus, which was part of his contract. He didn't steal it. That was the university agreed to it. They owed it to him. But I'm just curious. It's now been over 3 months since I asked him the question that he called dumbass. What is your thoughts on the state of the Michigan State football program? What is the good, the bad, and the ugly?
Well, I think it is dangling on a precipice. I would put it that way. I think they have some real issues there that may be able to get fixed. I'm not sure if they can. As I read that article about the 4 recruits, and especially Robertson, and it just seemed to me that once a problem occurred with those 4, that they kind of halfway went into protocol, but more than going through the protocol process for a problem, went into how do we control this problem. That's the way that I interpreted that. And because they did that, I think there's an awful lot of problems that are going to generate from that. I see that if you're talking about the entire state of Michigan State football, we have players leaving at a number that we've never seen before under Coach Dantonio. So that's very alarming to me, and the stubbornness of not upgrading his coaching staff, particularly on offense, just a plain stubbornness. I'm not doing that, and you really can't say there's a loyalty thing there too, because you can't just have loyalty to coaches and not have loyalty to your players by providing for them the best possible coaching possible. And that's kind of way, as an outsider looking at it, reading the articles, watching the games, following the board, following your publications, that's the way I'm seeing it right now.
Huh. All right. So, Coach, are you concerned about the football program? Are you in a wait-and-see mode? Where are you?
Well, no, it's not a wait-and-see any longer. I mean, since 2016, it's pretty much right out there in front that the program is declining. You boil down to, not to put anything on one of the players, but, a lot was made for Lewerke and the records that he set that while he was there, and he did set some really wonderful records that'll be there for a while, I'm pretty sure. But bottom line, the success as a quarterback is in wins. And you see that since 2016, I think at this point, we may be just a game or two over 500 from a program that was double-digit wins prior to the 2017 season. I think the program is in decline. I think there's problems in the locker room. I think players are leaving for whatever reasons they are leaving, and I think the program's in trouble.
Coach, I want to ask you a question, and I'm not going to have an opinion. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. But I want to ask you this simple question. Kody White leaving, I think, was devastating. I think it was. I think he was the best wide receiver they have, but I think they're going to have a bunch of wide receivers next year. So if they could afford to lose a player at any position, it would be wide receiver. I don't think it's devastating to lose Kody White, even though he is the best wide receiver. I'm not so sure they're going to have anybody an offensive system that can get him the ball. To me, it is a great concern, the optics. His father is the one who oversees recruiting. He's on the staff. He's not a young man who comes from a family of financial need. This is greatly concerning to me. Where am I wrong?
I don't think you're wrong at all. Kody White had a good season. I would not classify it anywhere near great. I think there's things that Kody White had to work on. I think he had to work on strength, running routes, blocking, and so. And that another year in the program would have been much better for him. But looking at the situation that you have right now, shuffling of coaches, the program, looking back on this, winning ugly is acceptable. Losing ugly is not acceptable. And you cannot erase the bad taste that you got from in Illinois. And looking back to last season and the quarterback situation coming up, this next situation, if they don't bring somebody in out of the transfer portal, which I doubt very much they will, that doesn't seem to be his coach's style, who's going to throw the ball? So why not go at this time? And just as devastating, maybe, Scott left too with the defense. I think two of your best defense, your players in the team, your best corner and your best wide receiver are gone for next year. So that's another brick in the wall of the program going bad.
Coach, I get frustrated with people who rip on Kody White. Oh, he's not ready. He's not ready. Well, first of all, an NFL team's going to pay him a lot of money. He is going to make the league.
Mm-hmm.
But when you don't think about it in context, he can come back next year and have and block better, run better routes, and all of that. But if he doesn't have the stats, it's going to hurt his draft status, and it's going to cost him money. Now, I want you to know, I have not spoken to Kody about this, and I have not spoken to his dad about this. So I consider myself friends with them, but I have purposely not, because I don't want to cause any enmity between Dantonio and Sheldon. So this is Hondo speaking, and I'm absolutely, Coach, would I tell the people I haven't spoken to them and lie to them?
No, you would.
Okay,
no.
So I'm telling everyone right now, I have not spoken to Kody or Sheldon about this. This is Hondo's thoughts. So he can come back and run better routes, be a better blocker, all of that. But if he doesn't have the stats, it's going to cost him money. So when you say, well, he should come back, yes. If this was a program in good condition, I'm 100%. I'm 200% convinced if the program were in better shape, he would be back. So
yeah, I agree with that totally. But you also got to look at Hoyer, quarterback that we had a few years ago, and he was drafted by Belichick because you went back and you looked at a number of things that stat-wise, non-stat-wise, Hoyer could throw the ball, but how many drops did he have that season? And pick them up. And what I'm saying is that if he were to stay and become a better football player, I don't think, because he has the stats as a freshman, sophomore, junior, and I'm sure that the scouting reports out there are realizing who's going to be throwing the ball, who's not going to be throwing the ball, and that he is athletic and bigger and stronger and able to run better routes. I don't think that would hurt as much, but I agree with what you're saying that the stats aren't going to be there, but they find football players.
I agree. Now, I can tell you this, Spartan Nation is reporting they are actively looking at the transfer portal, looking for a quarterback. I can tell you that. That's factual. That comes from inside on the staff. I was talking to a Division I head coach recently, and he said to me, Hondo, it doesn't matter. You can look all you want. He goes, I can go look at a Lamborghini or I can go look, but if I'm not willing to pay for it or if I don't have the money to pay for it, it doesn't matter. I'm looking. He goes, what quarterback who's any good is going to go there to that system?
That's true. That's true. When you look at the offensive blocking scheme, the offensive blocking, how poor it was at times last year, you're going to have a lot of trouble finding somebody. You're not going to find a Wilson to come like Wilson came to Wisconsin.
Russell Wilson, yeah.
Yeah, Russell Wilson. You're going to have to find somebody that is better than what you've got, but he's not going to be one of those top liners. And then that brings another question up, too. If you bring another quarterback in, a la like a Harbaugh or something like that, where you recruit quarterbacks and then they just flee the system because you keep bringing in other quarterbacks, that's another problem that you're going to have in the future.
Well, the point is, either they've missed on quarterback or their pride was what led to the fall, because if you didn't miss in recruiting, then Brian Lewerke should have been pulled several times last year. I want to talk about Brian Lewerke real quick. Had a lot of people tell me, why didn't you like Brian? Coach, you are my friend privately. Have I ever one time said anything to you privately off the record other than, man, he's a great kid, he comes from a great family?
I can't remember anything like that.
I really like Brian Lewerke. I like him a lot. And I was the one that first reported of anyone in the Michigan State media that had he had a very good 2018, he very well could have left early for the NFL. If I'm the one player who's more mad than the fans, it's Brian Lewerke. Because Michigan State did not help me. Michigan State hurt me. And I look back and look at mistakes he made in 2017 and thought, oh, man. I had an NFL scout tell me after the 2017 season, the first one who mentioned me that Brian could go early. He goes, oh, he's got these things to fix. Some footwork, his release point, where he released the ball, some little things. And he said, Hondo, he's going to get those fixed. He goes, if he comes out and demonstrates those are all fixed in 18, he'll go pro and go early. Not only were they weren't fixed in 18, they went backwards. It went backwards in 19. And that same coach said to me this year after the Wisconsin game, he called me because when Mark Dantonio called my question dumbass, and he said to me, Hondo, the dumbass thing is you got a kid that had a potential to go early as an NFL quarterback, and he's still making the same mistakes and getting worse. That's not on the kid. That's on coaching.
Exactly. And that, I've said that on this program before, and we've said that privately. I'm thinking about that on the board. His technique was just terrible, and at times, people would complain about how inconsistent, how erratic he was. And then all you have to do is just slow down, watch his footwork and watch his technique. It did not seem to be an issue with the coaching staff. And I just don't understand that. It was crazy. He had so much trouble throwing the ball deep down the field, and he had so much trouble throwing the ball to his left. And to rectify that would not be that much difficult. Just to get a seat in the proper position, ball release. Then you go and watch the national championship game, and you watch those two quarterbacks out there, and you know that those guys have been coached up to the max. Those two quarterbacks were obviously the best two quarterbacks in college football, and it's not that hard to really coach the quarterbacks, but they seem to be content with getting the ball out of his hands and getting a few big plays. I don't know how else to put it, but the simple stuff just didn't get coached up.
Coach, I got 3 more questions for you. Can you go a little bit longer?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, we're talking to the great Coach Chuck Grenier. He's my fishing buddy and one of my favorite humans in the world. Coach, just a couple more things. Mark Dantonio said last year he wasn't going to just take the keys to his offense, give it to somebody he didn't know, and trust them. He said it just wouldn't work. Well, a head coach by the name of Ed Orgeron last year thought he had a good quarterback in Burrows, thought he had great talent, fired his offensive coordinator, went and hired a 29-year-old kid from the NFL that he did not know, gave him the keys to the offense and said, fix it. He did. And now that guy's an offensive coordinator in the NFL, and Orgeron and LSU have a national title. I mean, no offense, but that's a question that Dantonio's. I'm going to ask him that. Mark, you said you wouldn't do this because it wouldn't work. It just did in the national championship. Do you still think it won't work? I mean, is that a fair question?
That's exactly what he's supposed to do. If things are not working, his job is not to be out there and hold a bag while somebody hits it or throw the ball to somebody. Coach's job is to make sure that football team is firing on all pistons. And if that means to bring in a new coordinator and keep his nose out of it, that's what it means. If it means bringing in an excellent line coach, that's what it means. He's supposed to be the higher up, the chairman of the board that delegates power, delegates decisions, and makes the decisions to keep to quote a friend of yours, row the boat. The boat has to be rowed, and if you don't change that, then the boat sinks, I guess. And Louisiana State proved that you can do that. You come in, get fresh ideas, get a person that's in total control, has a vision of what he wants to do, like LSU, and get the program rolling with his vision. Not that, when you have a committee running something, you're lucky to get anything done. And I think that's probably some of the problem that you have in Michigan State. It's run by committee. Offensive coordinator and head coach, they're all involved in that. Tell me what we have to do. Tell me how we're going to prepare. Tell me what's going on, and let me oversee the program. I think that's the way you got to do it.
If Mark Dantonio makes any changes, and I'm not so sure that he will or won't now. I don't believe he's going to make systemic big changes. As a matter of fact, I'm being told by people on the inside that will not happen. But if he does make a couple changes, are you concerned he did it so late in the process? Does this hurt Michigan State?
Well, I think so. I think for the very reason, like we talked about with the quarterback, the transfer portal, the program has been on the decline. If a couple coaches do leave, if a coach leaves, if a couple coaches leave, 3 coaches leave, whatever, gets rid of them or however that goes, and the program is in the state it is right now, what kind of coaches are you going to be able to pull in? Well, realizing that this may be a sinking ship.
I'm going to tell you another thing. I talked with another head coach who told me, we were talking about Michigan State because he sent me a message and said, no way. Let me read you the message. I'll read it to you, and I'll tell you privately off air who it was. He said, Hondo, no way Dantonio does nothing, right? To which I responded, this was my response, well, you would think that, and I know people inside want him to do something, but this is his decision. He's not going to be told. This was the coach's response to me. Well, it's not like he's going to go out and get anybody great right now because they're not going to want to come in as a coordinator unless he gives them the keys, and he already said they wouldn't. Now, he's not making coordinator changes. I'm telling you that right now. That's not happening. But, it makes it difficult unless you maybe go to a smaller school to bring a guy in this late in the process. Am I right?
I think you're dead on that. I think that mystery coach is right on with that too. You've got to change as the climate of football and the way things are done in football are done. You've got to make your changes. If you're not, I think one of the quotes on the weight room in there, if you're not going forward, then you're going backwards. So I think that was used to be in the weight room anyway. And so you gotta keep abreast of what's going on in college football. And right now it's quarterback and wide receivers on offense. So you got to make that change.
All right, everybody. That's the great Coach Chuck Grenier, the good, the bad, the ugly with Spartan football. We will be back. Football. We will be back. Football. We will be back.